Hi everyone, it's Adam with Grumpy Bee Honey, and it's a beautiful fall day here in southern Iowa. Getting ready to turn into winter soon, I'm sure, but no snow on the ground. So I thought we'd talk just a little bit about what we do at the end of the year to kind of prepare for the future year. There's about 6 months of the year, 7 months of the year here. We won't do anything with our honey supers other than have them stored. And so today was just going to do a real brief video, maybe to talk a little bit about that and a little bit of our hive preparation, what we do for the following year. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, real quick. I think the great thing with social media and YouTube is there's a lot of great ideas out there. There's not one right way to do things. There's several ways you can do things. This is just kind of a practical look at how we do it. My wife Ashley and I are very much kind of a hobby operation, and hopefully maybe to put some stuff out there that's worked for us and might give some ideas to some other folks that are trying to start in this. We've been keeping hives for about 4 years now, and we went from having just a couple to well into the double digits and continue to expand. We try to do that through that organic, I guess what you would call a growth model, where we try to only expand as the demand for what we're selling grows and what we can financially absorb without trying to take out a big loan. You know, some folks may find that taking out a loan and expanding huge numbers is the way they want to do it, but for us, we just kind of want to do a slow organic growth. So we always kind of look at what we really need to purchase or buy when we're doing our stuff, as opposed to going out and taking a loan and buying huge amounts of stuff that might go far beyond what we have time or effort for, as we both have full-time jobs. So it's just kind of a fun thing that we do and have kind of expanded, and we'll probably keep expanding for a little bit into the future, but this is just a kind of a quick look at what we do when we get to the fall and how we prepare to look forward to the next year. Kind of in recap, we did have a really good year this year. Most of our hives were very productive, and this was some of our very quality stuff that came off, so we were really happy with that. Nice clear honey that we just strain. We don't run through any kind of heat treatment or pasteurization or anything like that, and I was just really happy with the way it turned out, and really good taste, and just really clear for something that has only been through a particle strainer to get out large pieces of stuff that we don't want in our final product. So we were lucky this year to have a really good harvest of nice quality honey. One of the things that we always think is important to do is to kind of inspect our honey supers in the fall. We always like to go through them and do things such as remove these extra large amounts of propolis and things that are going to get sticky throughout the winter months, or that we may not want there. So when we use them in the spring, it could cause some issues of parts sticking together. So something we're going to do is thoroughly clean and inspect these, make sure that all this extra propolis, which is of course really useful for the bees but not so much in the off season here, has been removed and is off and clean when we put these boxes away for the winter. For us, one of the things we think that's really important when we're putting away our honey supers, especially for the winter, is to make sure they go through a freeze cycle. We kept an old, smaller, deep freeze. We know larger commercial operations may have walk-in freezers, or they may rent cold storage spaces. That doesn't really exist for us where we're at, and we don't have the number we need that, but we try to make sure that all of our frames of honeycomb go through a freeze process here for at least a couple of days. The purpose of doing this is to try and remove anything that we don't want in there, whether it's wax moths, wax moth larvae, small hive beetles, things like that, stuff that we don't want to store, perpetuate. Obviously, if you get a really bad infestation of wax moths, they could decimate all this wax, and something that we've learned as newer beekeepers is one of the best resources a beekeeper has is that built-out wax comb. It's really hard to come up with. It takes some time to get it built. But so we always freeze these for several days. These have been in there for a little while now. One thing I always caution folks about is frozen honey comb is incredibly brittle. You see, it doesn't take very much to damage it when it's frozen. It is delicate when it is fresh and unfrozen as well. But especially in that frozen state, tends to be really brittle, so we try to be careful with those. So what we'll do is we're going to pull these frames out. We're going to set them in a dehumidified room for just a little bit to make sure when they thaw that they don't have any condensation on them. And once that's all done, we store them in a rack covered in a dry, cool room and wait till spring. And since we're not a full-time apiary and we always have a little extra, we will keep several of these frames like this where most of it was capped but wasn't quite there and needed a little more time, but we got to the point of the year where stuff wasn't going to continue to finish out getting capped when the humidity doesn't drop low enough in the day. And we'll keep a handful of these frames in the bottom of the freezer because come late winter, even with nasty weather conditions here, we'll a lot of times get a nice day here or there where we can pull out some of these frames and go do quick hive inspections. And if we see some of our hives are struggling or low on resource at the end of the winter, we can pop these in there and exchange them for one of their frames that's empty. This may not be a deep frame but it will fit inside a deep box if we need to for a time being, a supplemental feed for those bees to get through the rest of the cold weather until things start to warm up a little bit. If we get past that point and we don't add them into those hives, then we just look when we get nice weather and the bees start getting really active, we may take these out and just rip them open and set a handful in each of our yards and let them forage off these and rob them out as a kind of a start before we get good nectar flow going, because it can be well into April before we get really good stuff growing that will provide them with those first meals they need in the new year. And back outside where it's really nice here, one of the final things we'll do in the fall to prepare is we want to treat for varroa mites. Just something really nasty that we don't want in our hives, and we need to get those numbers down because they absolutely rob from the bees in the hives. You know, almost like a small tick that attaches to them and does a great amount of damage, especially when the numbers get really high in those hives. In the past, we've used the older style method, which kind of required you to hook up to like a car battery. This year, we decided that was a purchase we could make, so we went ahead and upgraded to a battery-operated oxalic acid vaporizer. The oxalic acid is not harmful to the bees, but it is very harmful to the varroa mites, and we use that on all of our hives once they're done having brood. The varroa mites tend to focus in those locations of the hive, and we like to use that oxalic acid treatment once all the brood has emerged for the year. And we do that on nicer days. Have to be a little warmer than today. I do have a video of us using the digital battery operated oxalic acid vaporizer that we purchased. Several $100s for that, but that was a purchase we thought was well worth our time because it really speeds up how quick and how often you can treat your hives. And at the end of this, I'll tag that video in there treating hives. That was just a little while back when the weather was much warmer than it is today. It is temperature sensitive. You don't want to treat your bees when it's too cold for that. There is some tolerance levels you want to stay within. But just kind of a quick look at how we do things in the fall, preparing our boxes, our honey frames with the supers and freezing the wax to remove any of those mites, the wax beetles or the wax moths that we don't want in there, and then getting our stuff ready for storage for next year. Hope you enjoyed. We'll have more exciting stuff in the future, and we'll talk about other things that we do that we've found effective. Hope everyone has a great day, and Merry Christmas. In the fall here, we're going to treat all of our hives for varroa mites. We use oxalic acid and a vaporizer for that. This is not something you want to breathe in, so you'll see that Ashley has the proper safety precautions on. It does not harm the bees, but it is really hard on the varroa mites, which are hard on our bees.